Hi, this is Nianta Spellman with Rainforest Partnership, bringing to you Our Planet, Our Future, a video podcast presented by Rainforest Partnership. Find us at www.rainforestpartnership.org and on social media. Join us as we bring interesting and compelling guests to talk about the environment, climate change, and rainforests.
Good morning. I'm Beth Kaplan, Chief Strategy Officer at Rainforest Partnership, and I'm guest hosting our audio podcast. Well, wait, it's a video podcast. Well, it's a podcast, however you're accessing it. Audio, video, whatever. We're there for you. And I'm happy to be here today with Ayana Young, a delightful, brilliant, visionary filmmaker who's just been part of our Films for the Forest 9th annual competition film challenge. And her film was one of the ones screened here at South by Southwest as part of our community screening. Thank you for being with us today, and thank you for being part of Films for the Forest.
Well, thank you, Beth, and everybody at Rainforest Partnership. I'm so honored to have this film that's so dear to my heart, and also my first film to be screened. I still feel the butterflies just thinking about it on that big screen. I've never even seen it on a big screen, so it was such an experience, and I'm so grateful to everyone who is a part of this.
So this was your first film?
My first it was a directorial debut, I've never been a producer, never edited. I learned how to edit on the fly. It was just really a miracle.
Okay, so let me just tell you, as someone sitting in the audience, I would never have guessed that from the visuals that I was seeing and the cuts that this was your debut as a filmmaker. There are some really powerful imagery segments in that I will take away with me.
Thank you.
And I'll circle back to that in a little bit, I think. But what I'd really like to know then is what moved you to pick up a camera and to say, this is a story I want to tell, and I want to tell it through the power of film.
Great question. Well, I also want to give a shout out to all the incredible women, an all-woman crew who came with me. Leslie Satterfield, who is the director of photography. So all of those images, she has such an incredible talent and eye, and so this was not a one-woman show, and it never is. We need each other. We need the collective to do this kind of work. And gosh, what inspired me, I always go back to the love of the forest. It was a call of this forest, of the Tongass National Forest in Southeast Alaska, and I knew what was happening. I knew that old growth logging was happening on our public lands with our taxpayer dollars, and we have less than 2% of all old growth left globally. And I had this yearning that I had to go up there. And I didn't know what I was gonna do. I didn't have a shot list. I didn't have a script. Like I said, I really didn't know what I was doing. But what I knew is that I was in love with this forest, and I needed, if only just to witness what was happening to them, if only for them to know that I was there, seeing them, acknowledging them, loving them, holding them as they were being hospiced to their, to the next chapter, however that works for the forest. And I think so much of my work really is about the deep connection, and sometimes that means grief, and sometimes that means just sitting with the extinction crisis and saying, I'm here, I'm not turning away from you. And I'm loving you in the collapse. I'm loving you in your vibrancy. Whatever stage the forest is at, I'm here, and I'm not running away.
Isn't that the nature of unconditional love?
Yes, and that's what it is. That's what it is. And so the film, I was at a women's gathering. I was on my missionary, Joan of Arc feeling, and I was like, the Tongass National Forest, we have to go up to Alaska. And these incredible women, none that I knew, these 10 women, somehow said yes. And they said, okay, Ayana, let's go up to Alaska. So we ended up going to this island, the ground zero of old growth logging, Prince of Wales Island. And we just committed to being present and committed to showing up And we did it with a film, we did it with a camera, and now we're here, and it's an honor to be able to speak about the Tongass. The capacity to be here and have that be the mission is beyond my wildest dreams.
That's wonderful. I'm curious, so what was this women's conference that you went to, or women's event that you went to?
Yeah, so it's called Spirit Weavers Gathering, and it's 600 women over 5 days, and then another 600 women over 5 days. I stay the whole time. I teach there. I teach about mushrooms and sacred activism, and I've just met so many incredible sisters who want to uplift each other and just say, okay, let's do this together. We're in it together, and let's get back to our ancestral connection to the earth. So I always tell the founder, Maya Woodruff, I said, you were the one who created this nest that all of these women met, and then we went to Alaska and we did this thing. So it's amazing how somebody can create something and then you have no idea how that puts into motion an entire chain of events, and I love that.
Serendipity is a powerful, powerful force. We don't necessarily understand why or how things happen. Just, I think, in my own life, and I know in the life of Rainforest Partnership as well, serendipity and being open to what arrives naturally and in the fullness of its own time. If you are open to that, rather than committed to this is the plan and I'm going to work the plan, and on Tuesday this is what I'm supposed to do at 10 a.m., you have the potential to tap into some really powerful things. And it sounds like that has been something that has been a factor in your journey.
It's all about emergence. Emergent strategy is what I go by. I have a vision, I have the long-term vision, but how I get there changes because there's so much new information. Every time you meet somebody new, every time something else comes into my life, things that I learn. And I also have a podcast that I'm able to speak with thought leaders, and every time I have a conversation with one of them, I take away something and I shift the way I show up in the world just a little bit, sometimes a lot of it, depending on what they're bringing to the table, and just the awe of people's creativity and other people's understanding of what we're going through. And For the Wild, which is the organization that I founded, it was all, like I said, it was just emergent. I felt a call, I saw a need, I fell in love with the forest, and I said, how can I show up for you? And a lot of it, I mean, I want to say all of it, is listening to the forest, because I hear strong messages. And a few years ago, what I heard was move out to the wilderness, strip down, and get out of the human conditioned mind and really listen. Slow down enough to hear what reciprocity is for the forest and my own relationship. How can I actually show up in a reciprocal relationship? And so I was living in a tent, no running water, no electricity for 2 years in the temperate rainforest. So everything was molding, I was wet, I was cranky, I was screaming to the heavens at points like, what have I done? Why did I do this to myself? And I learned unconditional love through that process. And I remember one day I was walking around the land and I thought, okay, where do I go? And I had the podcast, so I was learning a lot, but I didn't really fully understand what my focused purpose was. And I was sitting at the confluence of these wild rivers and with salmon, and I'm just imagining the alders changing colors and the big leaf maple. And I was watching the water flow, and this lightning bolt came into my consciousness, and it was the 1 Million Redwoods Project, and which was, I heard from the forest, how I can be reciprocal was to grow the children of these forests, to respect the ancestors, and to support the next generation of forests. And so that's how I created this native species nursery that I'm working on in Northern California, where I'm really focusing on the biodiversity and the genome of the redwood forest and the fungal allies. And so when I think about the Tongass film, it's all part of the same. It's all the same bioregion. The redwoods in Northern California, all the way up to Southeast Alaska, where the Sitka spruce reigns supreme. They're all related. They're relatives. And so it's how do we protect what is intact and how do we restore what has been damaged. And for me, I really feel like I want to just keep supporting and working with other organizations and other local communities and just connecting together and holding hands in this.
Well, you mentioned the Northern California redwoods, and I was fortunate enough to go and experience them for the first time at Humboldt State Park just a couple of years ago. My husband had been telling me about them for years. He'd spent many years in California, and he said, we have to go. So it was an amazing day. It was raining and just glorious, and we got out of the car and standing and looking up at the tops of the trees as the rain fell on us. It's incredibly evocative and powerful and spiritual, and I can just imagine. I have a feeling that this is not going to be an only film. I have a feeling that you're going to be bringing that same creative storytelling to subsequent projects. Are you thinking about how you might be doing that with the redwoods or some other subject?
It's such a good question that I've been asking myself a lot in the last
The
week.
answer doesn't have to be yes or have anything concrete.
Well,
I'm just curious.
I'm curious as well, because when I first made this film, like I said, I really didn't know what I was doing, and it was very challenging. It was not an easy project at all, and so I went through trials and tribulations, and I went through a roller coaster of emotions, just trying to understand what this film was and how to tell this story, this love story to the forest, but also the questioning of how has humanity gotten itself into the situation that it's in, and questioning purpose, and questioning the extinction crisis, and questioning the dominant culture, because I don't look at any of them as separate. I see them all so interconnected. So how to have this intersectionality and the love story and the beauty and the pain, and being able to hold all of that and doing it in a way that would hopefully make somebody feel something. Because I truly believe if we don't fall in love, and if we're not at times grieving and at times just feeling the intensity, we're not really awake to our current predicament. And then if we don't have that love, that unconditional love, how are we going to wake up every day, day in, day out, and do the work? Because of course there are wonderful victories, and there's also a lot of challenges with what's happening in the environment right now. So what's going to sustain us? And so I was thinking of all these thought processes as I was trying to make this film, and there was I know of more than a few moments where I thought, well, again, what have I done? Why did I do this? I'll never do this again. But now I'm looking at it, and like I said, when I got to see it on the big screen, I just had tears in my eyes, because what I felt was this sense of fulfillment, that I had fulfilled my agreement to the forest. That I told the Tongass, I said, I don't know what I can do, but I'm going to do something. And so to sit in that theater and to know that this story was being told to other people, and that I could connect with the Tongass and say, I told you I would do it, and I did. And it's not over. I mean, there's going to be a whole campaign, and there's a lot more education that needs to be brought to the surface, because it's a complicated situation. But just to be able to walk the talk that I have with the forest is honestly, just that in itself, my life feels fulfilled. So in terms of another film, I'm really interested in doing it, but I need to talk with my forest creatures, because they need to let me know, okay, Ayana, like, this is the kind of film we want you to make, this is how we want you to make it, because I get all of my inspiration from them. I don't do anything without them telling me what to do, how to do it, and how to stay in a track of integrity.
That leads me to a question. It's very clear to me that you understand the power of listening and how to be very present. And I think in the world in which we live, not everyone has that talent. I mean, there's so much information coming at us. There's so much noise. There's so much that we want to connect with. There's 3 screens and the sounds of family and friends and work and the chirps and the dings. And so if for people who might want to take those first steps to being more fully present in their conversations, either with other people, with nature, with themselves, how do you think you might advise them to start to be really actively listening and more fully present?
Well, I want to tell anybody out there that
they don't have to move. They don't have to move to the Tongass for 2 years and live in a tent.
You do not have to do that. And I'll also say for anybody out there, I did not grow up like this. I did not grow up in an activist background. I did not grow up in a nature background. I grew up in suburbia of Orange County where there was no forest anywhere to be seen. I didn't even camp till I was 25 years old. So that was 5 years ago. And so I just want anybody who thinks, oh, I can't do that, or I don't know how, or I don't, I just want to say I'm living proof of somebody who really wasn't trained in this way and was not comfortable. This was not my comfort zone to live in a tent. It wasn't my comfort zone to be quiet and listen. I was suburban to urban. I was New York City. I was, I was in the buzz, of all of it and the energetics of the developed world, the industry of New York City, which is just, you can get anything at any point. You walk out 3 a.m. and there's, restaurants open. So I want to say that I've come from that place to get here. And for me, what it takes is, for me, what it took was a drive and a commitment and saying, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to humble myself and I'm going to put some disciplinarian boundaries of how I need to do this. And what I mean by that is, I think because we live in this culture that's really instant gratification, and it's really, we're at South by Southwest. There's a lot going on. There's stuff happens. Because I was really the instant gratification and just the constant distraction and like you were saying, the ding ding and the this and the that and the family and all this stuff that happens, our heads are just exploding, that I think it takes a concentrated commitment to say, okay, I know that there's all these distractions, I know that all this is happening, but my relationship or the desire for a relationship with Earth is going to actually drive me to be disciplined in being quiet for a minute. And I also want to say that it didn't happen overnight for me. Even talking to plants, I didn't just all of a sudden talk to plants. I remember the first few times I tried, and I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, hello, plant? Like, I was like, how do I, do they say back? Or is it English? How? And it took me trusting in the earth and trusting in myself that that I am connected. I am primordially connected to this earth, and I'm lonely. I'm lonely for that connection, and so it was a lot of, like I said, a lot of trials and tribulations, but even just one thing, put your phone on airplane mode, and just go, okay. Even for 10 minutes, you don't even have to put a big time frame on it. I don't cross my legs and sit in a meditation pose. I don't do that because it actually is not what works for me. What works for me is I like movement. I need to be able to walk. I need to be able to watch water flow. I like the activity of Earth. And so I would suggest put your phone on airplane mode, even for 10 minutes, and just observe. Because there's, and if you're in a city, go to the park. Go to a tree. I mean, the oaks of Austin are gorgeous. I have been talking to every oak here. Oh my gosh, oak, you are just, look at you. You're magnificent. The branches, and they're budding right now, and it's spring. And to be able to go to these oaks and even go close up and seeing all the incredible crevices and the texture of the bark and the glory of what these trees are. And I also think that's a part of it. It's like discipline to, you know, turn things off even for a few minutes. And the other part is having reverence. I mean, when you have that gratitude and you're feeling the reverence for just the sheer magnificence of this planet and what life stems from her, it's like, wow. And that, the gratefulness, the reverence, then you want to be quiet more and more. Then you want to observe more and more, because it's almost like the earth starts showing up more. It's like the observation and the conversation and the communication, it like turns on again, because the earth is like, oh, you see me, you hear me, here I am for you. And then like for me, I see it and I'm talking everywhere, where before like it was nothing. It was just, I didn't even know left from right, you know, and then it was just like boom, boom, boom. But like I said, it's been a discipline. I've worked on it for years. I've gone through trials and tribulations. There's been moments I've been frustrated. But I want to just say, for anybody who's feeling those things, stick with it, because I really believe that that relationship with Earth is the most, it's the most blessed way to be alive. And I've never felt more alive than when I am, even just speaking about it. I just
it's very clear though. There's truly a glow that comes from you, a really joyful, beautiful presence.
Thank you.
That I know I'm speaking for Aubrey, our amazing videographer today. Thank you, Aubrey, and myself. It's delightful to be present in that. I have to tell you, I think you use silence very powerfully in the movie. I think some of the most powerful moments for me were what some people might think would be the spots between, but I think they were their own mindfully crafted moments, and they had real power between the elements that you weave together. And I just think you're very comfortable with using silence as a medium to share your story, and I so appreciate getting to experience that, because so many people think every moment needs to be filled, and it doesn't, because silence has power in and of itself. So I think that your approach, your reverence came through in the story that you told, and it was part of what made it as powerful as it was. So
thank you for that feedback. Oh my gosh, I was like, oh, you know, if you hear it, because sometimes we just work, sometimes, you know, it's challenging because we can work in our own minds, and we don't. And I mean, when I was editing it, it was, whoo, I was just in it with Leslie, just boo, 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 boo. And then I
wish Leslie was here. She's amazing, and her energy, I can just see how well the two of you work together.
It was amazing, but it feels so good to receive feedback from not my own, sometimes people call it monkey mind, where it's like bing, 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 bong, bing, bong, and just being able to hear somebody who has seen it, and I really appreciate that feedback. And yeah, the silence is, in one way it's silence, in another way it opens the door to conversations that can't be heard if we're not silent, and that's what I really think about. Not only, you know, when I moved out to the wilderness, was I being quiet because there was relatively no humans and really no service, but also I didn't even listen to music for years, and I still really don't. And people kind of, even in the car, you know, people go, why aren't you listening to music? Can we put music on? Or I'm working in the garden, music. And I said, no, don't put music on, because I'm not going to hear the bird song. I'm not going to hear the wind. I mean, the sounds of the forest, wind going through tree branches, and the way it wraps around trunks and moves, and all the nuances that happen when we are quiet, and how that completely expands the world in which we live in, because we realize then there is so much happening beyond our lives. And that's something that I really try to focus on, is not so much my own human exceptionalism, my own human supremacy, that my life is the most important, my life isn't the most important, and my life really isn't even about me. My life is about being in the collective organism that is Earth. And so I am so appreciative to the forest because it's gotten me out of my own narcissism, which honestly was the most chronically dissatisfying way for me to live when I was only thinking about myself, only serving myself. I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but I was like, wow, I'm just chronically dissatisfied. What's my purpose? I remember walking around New York City and I was like, well, there was great things happening, but there was this longing and this loneliness that I didn't understand. When I started working in service of that which I loved, which for me is the earth in general, but especially the temperate rainforest, it was like my body just lifted up, and I was able to feel a sense of purpose that was so life-giving. And so I see this type of work, this service work, is actually a gift. And so anybody who's involved with this work, through Rainforest Partnership and any of that, it's an actual gift to be able to steward the earth and to have that relationship. So I'm just completely, I'm just grateful. I'm just really grateful that I've been, that the forest is by my side in it.
Well, and I'm sure that the forest is very happy with what you did, and let them know that we appreciate their being part of Films for the Forest and part of the extended now Rainforest Partnership family. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your story with our viewers and with all of us. And I know we're going to stay in touch, and we were going to look forward to what's yet to come.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beth, and everyone at Rainforest Partnerships. The film screening was amazing. If you're in Austin next year, if it's here, it's just was a highlight of South by, because I have to say it's an incredible conference, but to be able to have something that's rooted in earth protection and really being able to hold those conversations at mostly a high technology event, it felt really important and relevant, and something that was actually completely necessary to have at this event, to be able to ground the conversations in earth. Because if we don't have the earth, and if the earth is not healthy, we don't get to have anything else. We need to take care of the earth so that we can allow our creativity to go in all different directions. So I just want to thank you and everybody for bringing that here, for grounding the conversation, and for really having a strength in this conference. So I'm just
I'd ask you one more thing before we step away, and it's, what would you say to anyone who has an idea, who wants to express themselves creatively for the rainforest or for another cause, but is afraid to pick up the camera or the paintbrush or the microphone or the instrument? What would you tell them as someone who did that?
Yeah.
Because we've got another film challenge coming up next year, and there's all sorts of opportunities. So what would you tell them if they were holding back?
I would say, trust in the rainforest. You can be a conduit. You don't have to know all the answers. You don't have to know what you're doing. But if you are listening, and if your intention is to be a conduit for that land, for that rainforest, the rainforest is going to help you out. Are you kidding me? They are so intelligent. The rainforest knows exactly how to do all these things, and how to inspire, and how to love, and how to excite people. So don't feel all the pressure that it has to just be on you as one little human. It's not all on you. It's mostly not even you. It's not even me. It's just being able to go, okay, I will use my human body in the human world to express what you're being told. So I feel like just listen, be inspired, and be the conduit. And it's incredible, because then you can, in a way, kick back at times. It's a lot of hard work, but you don't have to do it alone. And that's the most beautiful part. When you're working for the rainforest, you're not alone. You have millions upon millions of species, creatures, microorganisms, fungi, lichens, epiphytes, all behind you saying, yes, 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 do this work. And we're right here to do it together. So Yes, more rainforest projects.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Be inspired. Be inspired by Ayana. Be inspired by her movie. We have a link to it on our website, and you can see her work and the work of others who've participated in Films for the Forest this year and in past years. Ayana, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And my website is forthewild.world. So
and we'll have a link to that
on
our website as well.
Yeah, and just thank you, and thanks to all of you. And we are doing it together. We're a family in this.
It's Rainforest Partnership. It's partnerships that get things done.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for tuning in.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye for now.
You've been listening to Our Planet, Our Future, brought to you by Rainforest Partnership. From Nyanta Spellman and the Rainforest Partnership team, thank you for joining us.